Welcome to the Scooter Pitch Podcast. There are no winners, no prizes, but if you're lucky, you'll get robbed. This is the show where my YouTube members submit their story pitch to get roasted. And if anyone in the audience wants to steal the idea or make some tasteful fan art, we'll feature it on the next episode. We encourage theft because your ideas are not special. If you're interested in having your ideas roasted in the next episode, become a YouTube member and you'll get a spot. It's only $2. No promises it'll stay that low forever, and you'll find the submission form under the membership tab. I'm planning on this being a monthly podcast, but if submissions start picking up, we'll have to start making these more often. Oddly enough, we got exactly 3 submissions this time, just like last time. Anyway, I'm your co-host, Taperclip, and I'm joined by my other co-host, Komugi, the Lucario fan. How's it going?
Hi there. Yes, I am Komugi, also known as That One Lucario fan on YouTube, and I'm honored to be able to do 2 podcasts with Taper at once, both our Untitled Saturday Wars podcast and also this one.
Yes, I'm so happy you're here. You have endless media knowledge from my perspective. I do not. I'm way more media illiterate. I don't know why I'm on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I've totally been expanding it, too, because of the server. All our friends from the Discord server when we hang out with, they teach me about stuff I didn't even know about. Like, I don't know about the long shonen series like One Piece. Well, they just informed me today. One of our people we're reviewing helped inform me a bit about One Piece in the server today.
Oh, yeah. And we should clarify, that's a Trixie server we're talking about, not... I'm a little too offline to have my own Discord server.
Same here. I would be terrified to have one. I actually did make a Discord and advertise it on YouTube, and it's still up, but it has like 5 people, and I just like removed the link, so it's just like a little tiny thing. I can't handle that.
Oh, yeah. So for visual stimuli this episode, I'm putting a speed draw of the manga one-shot I'm currently working on.
Sweet.
This is why I've slowed down on scripted content lately. This manga one-shot's going to be about 45 pages, and I'm going to push myself to get this done sometime in May. There's no promises on a strict deadline, but that's my hope. Lucario, what are you working on lately?
I'm so glad you asked. I currently am working on several projects, and I definitely relate to what you said about how when you're writing an original piece of fiction, it's really difficult to write new videos. I've been doing mostly podcasts on That One Lucario fan, where I'm joined by multiple guests, such as Yakuman, for example, my good friend, and we do Magical Girl reviews. So we review like the latest Precure episodes and talk about stuff like that. They recently had a adult-oriented spin-off called Pretty Cure Mirai Days, which is them as college students. It's like aiming actually for an adult female audience. So we reviewed that. And I'm also doing original projects too, which is why like I've only been doing podcasts recently, because I can't find the strength to like write YouTube videos when I'm also writing my own series. So I've got an in-development series called GENKI and SIENNA. And you can find out more if you go on the Trixie Clipsy channel. It is a channel that clips Trixie live streams. And there's a whole one on there about GENKI and SIENNA, a video on there. So you can go watch that if you want to learn about my series.
That's awesome. I want to sneak in a reference to your animation in my one shot somewhere and somehow.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. You totally have my permission to do like plushies in the background or like a poster or anything you want to do.
That'd be awesome. Yes. Thank you. I feel like I gotta ask. I don't know. It's like I never want to bother Trixie, but I put for the name of my protagonist of my manga one shot I'm working on is Euji Everylead, which is like a Trixie joke.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should change it or.
So do you know what that spawned from? Do you know how Trixie came up with Euji Everylead?
Oh my gosh, I've heard it so much. What's the deep lore?
So there was a very famous light novel in the 2000s, which came out around the same time as like other influential light novels like Haruhi. Everyone knows Haruhi. Well, there was another one that was called Shakugan no Shana, and it's sort of a like shonen-y action story about a cool action girl. She's named Shana. And she meets this boy who basically like causes her to stop being so hot-blooded and quite as action-focused, because she realized that her mindset was basically like deteriorating her and making it impossible for her to like be okay, you know, because she's always fighting all the time. So she meets a boy named Yuji. Trixie hates Yuji, and so she named Euji Everylead after the Shakugan no Shana protagonist. I like Shana. It's a very fun anime in my opinion, but Trixie was not a fan.
My Euji Everylead is, if you don't mind me yapping about my project.
Of course, that's what this podcast is for. We do scooter pitches, and then we go into other people's projects and help support them.
Oh yeah, I'll link the storyboard for mine in the description if anyone wants to roast it while I'm meticulously rendering my Euji Everyleads. but the working title is The Hero with the Unwanted Harem. And it's about this super cool Chad Kirito type named Euji Everylead. And he somehow, over the course of his journey, amassed a harem of hot girls. But he doesn't want any of that. He just wants to be the strongest. So, like, this guy is somewhere between gay and asexual, but not really sure, but he's definitely on the autism spectrum. So the story's about him getting over his social anxiety and learning how to confront difficult social situations, because the point of the story is, like, he needs to learn how to turn down all of these girls instead of just dodging and, like, perpetuating the harem. That's my elevator pitch. Hopefully it was under 30 seconds.
Yeah, that was extremely unique. That is something that has never been done before, and many people have been wanting to see that in shonen for in like harems for a long time. There was one shot, which I think was a shonen manga. It was like one chapter, literally. You can read it super fast, which was a series about a male protagonist who has a girl who's always crushing on him, but he's actually gay. And so every thing is like him trying to hang out with this other boy at school that he loves, but the girl keeps getting in the way. And so it's sort of like a sarcastic, like romantic triangle thing where he's not interested in the girl at all, and the other boy isn't interested in the girl at all, but she just won't leave him alone. She won't keep away from being like the lum, from Urusei Yatsura, like in love with him. So that was only one chapter.
So fun.
It's really good. And many people like love that manga and say like, I wish this got a full series. You sound like you have potential to do a full series with it. And that is so admirable. I'm glad that you're doing that.
I'll see if there's any interest after the first chapter, but hopefully, there, like, this tells a complete satisfying story with the first chapter. And if people like it, I'm open to making more. If not, on to the next thing. Yeah. I want more really trashy shonen manga that's also very, very gay. And I don't mean like Naruto and Sasuke gay, where it's like, where they have like a wife in the background to assert the heterosexuality. I mean, I want to see Naruto and Sasuke make it out. That is like my goal in life, is more manga like that.
I know what you mean. Off the top of my head, are you aware of Awari no Seraph, or Seraph of the End?
I've heard of it. What's that about?
Yeah, Seraph of the End, sometimes also, I think that's the main English name that it's given. It's a very famous manga that was adapted by Wit Studio right after they did Attack on Titan. And that's very fitting because it has strong Attack on Titan vibes. Some people even label it as a ripoff, but really its similarities are more similar to Devilman. I'm sure that you probably know about Devilman and how the main two characters have
very,
gay
very
energy.
gay.
Yeah. So basically, Seraph of the End like goes all the way with that concept. I guess, are you okay with mild spoilers in terms of the relationship?
Yeah, go ahead.
They do kiss. It was a kiss under duress to help help recover them from it was like blood loss because it's vampire themed. So it was a kiss under duress. It was not like a totally wanting kiss. It was more like they had to, but they did it. And
I'll take it.
They're heavily implied in like all parts of the manga to be the main couple are implied to be these two boys. There is a female character who is like a tsundere who you could ship with the main black-haired guy if you wanted, but no one does that. No one cares. I mean, people joke about how she's not really an interesting character. They just care about the blonde boy and the black-haired boy. So it's very much like Ryo and Akira from Devilman, but as a fully explored thing where their relationship really does go on, and you see it.
Oh, that is cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Thank you. We want to move on. So the point of this podcast is you got to give a pitch that's good enough to get stolen.
Yeah.
And very heartbroken to report that none of the pitches from last time were good enough for thievery. So I don't know if all the creators from last time can let out a collective sigh of relief that their babies are safe, or if they should mourn the loss that they're...
I think the thing is, Tapir, your audience is too nice. We need to make them meaner. You need to make fun of at least 3 more Lindsay Ellis books so they all can be collectively meaner, ready to roast and steal.
You're right. As I was listening back to the first episode, man, I'm being pretty soft here. I thought I was hyping this up. This is going to be the roast. You guys, you freaking snowflakes aren't ready. You hyping myself up like a WWE promoter, and then it's this is really sweet. I'm really looking forward to this one.
They were cool. I feel like they were cool. If they were bad, we would have made fun of it. And one of them we did accuse of being AI. So there was some stuff that we were concerned about. Did you get any updates about that, by the way?
He didn't come back. He didn't clarify in the comment section. He didn't submit this time. So who knows what Odunze's mole is off to, what he's doing now. Hopefully he comes back. He's kind of he's a bit of a troll, but he's trying to get a reaction out of me. I'll say that. But bullying is his love language. So I appreciate his efforts.
I definitely like still am super interested in that work. But the more I thought about it, I was like, maybe an AI could have helped with that pitch. And if it was AI assisted, we're not dissing you. We're just genuinely really curious. Because I was just thinking about like the kimono stuff, like maybe an AI could come up with that and know about Japanese furry. But anyway, let's jump into today so we can roast those.
Wait. But there's one comment I want to read from the last episode.
Oh, gladly,
Yeah. So Sire Forseti, one of the pitches from last time, I forgot how he described it. It was, but he had like an Alex Jones type character. I'll put on screen his the art that he featured to jog everyone's memory.
Oh, I love this one. Yeah.
Yeah. He came back in the comment section and clarified a few things, which I super appreciate. So I want to read that for everyone. So Sire Forseti says, the One Piece setting part is more about how advanced technology-wise it is instead of a pure fantasy world. Maybe using Guilty Gear would have been more accurate. Nathan, the Alex Jones OC, was made in mid-2023 for 4chan OC comic tournament, LOL, and the Misfits project came a little bit later, like early 2024. I've been thinking of stuff about it like on and off. I've been working on sanitizing Nathan to make it intense, but not edgy and offensive for the sake of it. I'm also working on an actual comic, 21 pages sketched out. I do have a Newgrounds, same name as on here. There's also the comics I did for the tournament, but if I'm being honest, it's not my highlight. Nathan wasn't finalized, and the story was lacking because I started work like 3 days before the deadline, haha. Edit. By Battle Shonen, I was mostly thinking of the tropes of it. Demographics would be more adult, especially since most of the characters would be human wrecks you don't really want to imitate, kind of like It's Always Sunny style situation. That's cool. Like, I really appreciate him sharing more of his insight. I really loved that pitch. I really hope he finishes it. How about you, Lucario?
Yeah, I have quite a few thoughts. I thought it was really cool. So I was first thinking to myself that great suggestion or great thing to put in our heads was the Guilty Gear influence, because we were talking about last episode, encouraging this writer to look at all different kinds of other manga to get inspiration. And Guilty Gear does have a manga adaptation, and I would consider it to be like seinen. It's technically not classified because it was like a promotional manga, like released as a bonus, like a pack-in bonus. So it actually doesn't even have a My Anime List page to check, but it's classified as a seinen, I believe, because I was looking it up right now while you were talking. The author of the Guilty Gear manga is Sumeragi, and Sumeragi has some other manga on My Anime List, and they're all seinen. So I believe that it would be considered, the Guilty Gear manga would be considered seinen. So basically, bravo on doing what I said by bringing in a seinen reference there with Guilty Gear, even if it was in a roundabout way. And also, good job on clarifying what you meant about One Piece as a setting inspiration rather than specifically the tone. Because my biggest concern was like, it felt like you had all these ideas for very dark things, like Alex Jones, who is a very dark and dark character. And you're only reading stuff like One Piece. I was like, well, One Piece doesn't have a character who does Alex Jones type of stuff. As much as that series can get dark, there isn't anyone like going out there and denying famous tragedies, like we're talking darker than One Piece. So basically what I mean to say is that like good job on showing us what you mean and showing that you have a wide variety of experiences and that One Piece was meant to be for the setting. Because that was my main concern. I was worried that it was just shonen influences when it could be a lot of different influences, and you did that. So good job.
Hopefully with the format of the show, like, we're not going to understand everything. That's just kind of the nature of it.
Yeah.
And I'm opening up. I got some fan art from Canadian Turtle that I want to share.
Absolutely.
I'll send it to you. I am all giggles looking at this. I did get fan art from Cyniiko on Blue Sky that was very, very, very spicy. A little too spicy for YouTube, but I super appreciate it. It was one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, you showed me that. I remember that.
Yes. I was so happy to get that. I was screaming when my roommate got home that night. I was like, he came home and I was like, I had a better day than you. And he's like, what? Why? It's like, I got a picture of myself and my husband now.
I would do the same way. Yeah.
was like, shut up. I don't care what happened to you today. I just had the best thing happen to me.
Yeah, it's a wonderful feeling. When I get commissions of myself with my husband, though, I definitely am like, it's the same way.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I got it. Okay, I got Canadian turtles. This is cool. This is
Oh, wow. What does it represent?
right. He gave he gave an explanation in his email with a bunch of different all the little Easter eggs. I don't want to be seen as somebody that like, hey, if you message me, I will leak it. I don't. Canadian Turtle's been very cool with me sharing their stuff. So, and he's been okay with me, and he said it was fine for me to share the fan art. I assume the explanation for the fan art is also good, but if it is not, I will edit this out. So Canadian Turtle said, "Hi Tapir, I finished this art piece of you. Took roughly 3.5 hours. Like, what the? How do you draw that in 3.5 hours? That's crazy."
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that either. That's incredible.
No. The goal is to make a Paperclip art piece without using any words, telling a story without words, similar to the Shonen Jump splash page cover art that Kishimoto or Oda does. Easter eggs. As you can see, the image has a taped viper reaching for a black apple with footprints on the land. Those footprints look similar, huh? The viper's face is based off of the MCs that you draw in your videos. Oh, that's so cool. Any and all exposure to my artwork, particularly treacherous, is my main goal. Oh, wait, I skipped a line. The image is yours for the taking, and no, you don't have to give me anything in return. The only thing I need is people to give me honest criticism / reviews for my manga series. Any and all exposure to my artwork, particularly treacherous, is my main goal. Here's my character reimagined in my world building. My art is heavily inspired by Naruto and Japanese mythology in general, so you could see the inspiration. Also, my manga just got accepted as a one-shot on Manga Plus Creators. No way! Oh, that's cool. I don't know if that's considered a big deal, but here's a link. Hey, you're talking like it's a big deal, so I'm assuming it's a big deal.
Yeah, okay. Was that everything?
Yeah, and he sent a link, but the link didn't go anywhere. So yeah, Canadian Turtle, if you have a more recent link, I will update the description with that. So we can look at it. But yeah, this is freaking metal. I love this.
I found his pages, so this shouldn't be too hard. I've got his Twitter right here. I'm going to talk about one of his Twitter posts, so I'm going to give you the link so that you can edit this in. This is an animation on his Twitter that I wanted to give him some feedback on and some like discussion of it. First of all, this reminds me very heavily of the style of Only Jerry, an artist I really like. They're on YouTube and on Twitter, and they do like Game Boy style pixel art animations, and they like make it literally be on a physical Game Boy as if it could be a real game. But of course, with more frames of animation. It reminds me a lot of that when I look at it. My only feedback would be potentially look at his style for inspiration on this as well. But the lines are a little bit too clean for something that could realistically display on a Game Boy. If you really want to sell this as like Game Boy pixel art, just pixelize those lines a little bit. Just make them a little bit jagged. Even just a simple like lowering the resolution of the Pikachu video would make it more Game Boy-esque. And I know this is just a fun project. It was just something you were making for the sake of it. But I wanted to give you that feedback that would really take this from already cool to like iconic and potentially going viral. Like if it looked like a Game Boy game, people would be reshare this instantly. Oh, and the other critique or feedback I will give, you're already on Instagram, which is great, but I would recommend get on Blue Sky as well. That is the new home and lovely place for artists. I will follow you on Blue Sky gladly if you hop on there. But yeah, your work is awesome. I've actually been a fan for a while because I found out about you from the podcast and I saw your work.
Yeah, you're a Game Boy expert. This is solid advice, definitely.
That's correct. I make Game Boy homebrews. I actually have made my own games that can play on Game Boy. So I definitely would know what like type of resolution you could do on the hardware, and just pixelating those lines a little bit would sell this as really could be on a Game Boy. But the art and the animation of that Pikachu video is awesome, and I really like your style. So thank you, and thank you for the kind gift.
Oh yeah. Thank you for the fan art. This is so cool. It looks like my Yaoi Sona has like a taper snake. I gotta wonder so the third eye has opened, which is very cool. I gotta wonder what's the pillar in the background and if there's any symbolism with the flowers, because like he is very deliberate with like the placement and the objects that he puts in his color art for the manga Treacherous that I've seen. So Yeah, the black apple is pretty cool. Like I think I get that reference in the footprint. That's awesome. I love this. So cool. Thank you so much to Canadian Turtle.
Yeah, that's basically everything I was going to say before I move on. The only thing I was going to say was I'm slightly familiar with Japanese flower language, and those vaguely kind of represent either the sunflower or the cherry blossom, but like a yellow colored one. I'm trying to figure out if it is just a matter of art style that you chose to make it as those flowers, or it could possibly be a poppy, but it would be a yellow poppy, whereas poppies are usually red. So, under the impression that it is potentially sunflower or cherry blossom, those would fall under the realm of essentially like admiration, respect, and looking up to someone. Which is kind of funny because we
Now,
literally have this snake that's like trying to like look up and get
yeah.
to this apple. So it kind of does in
Oh
a
my
way,
gosh.
it does kind of in a way seem that might be it. It could be poppies. Yeah, I'm not sure because there are yellow poppies.
That that is that would be an accurate analysis of, looking up to someone, but also like and admiring them, but also feeling like I see when you said sunflower, my mind went to Volo because on his character design sheet, his blue and yellow outfit, it's theorized that it's either the word that they use is either his patrol outfit or it's a loan word from Russian meaning a sunflower that looks to the light of God, which is it's one of those things that can go either way, but Volo is very closely associated with sunflowers, especially in fandom and art. So I don't know if this is a deep cut Pokemon reference or or if it's translating Senpai Notice Me into the language of flowers. Either way, I love it. It's very cool. Thank you so much, Canadian Turtle.
That is really awesome. It feels like deliberate. It is so well drawn, they're not just like simple
Yeah.
floral patterns like from SpongeBob or something. They're like detailed
Oh, yeah.
flowers. So that goes to show that, yeah, maybe there's something there. Get back to us, Canadian
Yeah.
Turtle, because we have many questions, and I hope that you appreciated my critique and advice.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. Yeah, hopefully I can plug your Manga Plus. Like I said, the manga that you emailed me was very, very cool, and I want people to look at it. So I guess we can move on to the pitches.
Sounds great. So, optional, your name, your pen name, pronouns, and which fictional character or characters you most want to marry. We have Amy Warrel, she, her, has Himino from Chainsaw Man. Awooga, they wrote. Literally, they wrote out the sound.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
She's a good wife, though. Yeah.
I'm not up to date with Chainsaw Man, so I barely remember the details. But is that?
She's like the older woman that she smokes a lot with the Sasuke character. I don't know how else to describe him.
That's right. Okay, I definitely understand this taste. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, Chainsaw Man has some of the best straight relationships in manga for real. Like,
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That basically was everything I wanted to say about that. I just wanted to be able to understand the waifu. I knew that there was a waifu, but I wanted to see if it was one I understood. And I'm glad to say that in that case, I do. Now on to what is your elevator pitch given in the form of series meets series? The example would be Suicide Squad meets Card Fight. And so from Amy, we have Mushoku Tensei meets the Malazan Book of the Fallen, meaning Walk the Earth. Isekai meets megalomaniacal modern dark fantasy.
Like, I love that Amy put that specification because to me, as an outsider of fantasy, it's like this kind of looks the same. So I do appreciate her putting in that distinction. Thank you, Amy. But yeah, if you want to read their summary.
I was going to give a comment on, I understand what they mean by Mushoku Tensei. I just figured I'd clarify to you as well if you mean it. So Walk the Earth Isekai. So obviously what we're saying is Mushoku versus Malazan. And so it's Mushoku being Walk the Earth and then Malazan being the megalomaniacal one. So Mushoku being defined as Walk the Earth because the idea is that it's an adventure, like it's a story of like getting to know this land, like the guy Rudius, he died because he was a like lame incel or some crap. I don't remember. And he showed up in the fantasy world. And so he's literally getting a lay of the land. I understand that. So yeah, that's what she means.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Summarize your potential series in one paragraph. This is where to include the series medium if it's not a manga, the intended length, and all your big plans. If you have a title for your work, this is where to include it. If you go over a paragraph, we will make fun of you. The Deathless will be a 15 to 20 books long, low fantasy web serial, each the average length of a light novel volume. So far, I have the title for 16 of them, but I am not precious about these numbers, and the story might grow or diminish. It made me follow, sorry, so much text I got a little bit lost. It made me follow a girl named Kai and a boy named Ian, both of whom remember flaws of their past, brief and unfulfilling lives on Earth. Kai is a compassionate hunter who wants to live and see the world, while Ian is and let us know if we're pronouncing these wrong, while Ian is a pragmatic swordsman who wants power, so things can't be taken from him. Their goals will take them across the continent in a world which has the potential to realize their desires, but won't treat them any different for it. The unspecific path to fulfill their dreams is intentional, as this is a story about finding yourself in your place, told from the perspective of people who are lost, fleeing and searching. Journeying from here to there, they will be swept in by local conflicts, eventually being led to partake in a war against an invading empire, an empire led by a man who governs and grows through golden blood, and who is unknowingly riding the unseen waves of wild magic that sometimes can push a mortal towards something resembling godhood. There are also things known as abyssals, creatures that simply tear through the void at random, but who have a higher chance of rising where dead bodies are gathered. Grim from Ruby Moment. And well, gods. Structuring. The story closely mimics A Song of Ice and Fire, that's Game of Thrones, everyone, with some characters meeting early but diverging, and all following different paths that ultimately point towards a convergence. I need to mention that when I said the abyssals, the creatures that tear through the void and appear where dead bodies are gathered, when I made a reference to Ruby and the Grimm, that was not included in the description. I wanted to clarify that because this is a very professionally written description. It's basically like ready for the blurb on the back of a book when it gets published. This is basically professional level. I just couldn't help but interject because I was reading abyssals and I'm like, that's the Grimm. Yeah. And that's understandable. Yeah. That's a very good, appealing concept for a monstrous force. It just made me laugh. I was like, oh, that's Grimm.
And she sent the cover and she says, what better image than the cover? I haven't even made this public as of writing this, so you're among the first to ever see it.
I have seen this when it was in development stages because while Amy was working on this cover in the early stages, she posted it in the Discord and asked for feedback on the title placement. And I think you might have been there, Taper, or maybe not, but we gave feedback. Were you there?
Some articles about book design. Yeah.
You were. So you've seen this before too. You remember how it changed though, because it didn't have the flowers before. Yeah. It was more simple when we saw it.
Yeah. This is a very cool cover. I don't know if I get like giant fantasy epic vibes from it. I think that, but maybe that is the vibe you want to give out. Like this feels very Fruitiger Arrow, very stylish.
It kind of feels like an autobiography about Poison Ivy from Batman.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get people to read fantasy or, to get people to read anything. And I see that Amy's been very dedicated to this project and sharing word count updates and really driven by this, which is very cool. And so I don't think, because, with her saying it'll be 15 to 20 books, but, not committed to that. It's like seeing that, she is putting in the work to make this real already. And, and she's not locked into a set amount of books, shows that she's flexible. So that feels like just getting it out there, probably the least of the series worry. I believe that she will get this done and it'll be awesome. And now it's like, well, how to market this now is more of like what I'm thinking rather than what's the best way to approach this, because this world just sounds so huge, and this does sound like something that a lot of people would want to consume, but how do you have it find its audience? And so my thinking is this needs to be turned into an audiobook or like a podcast where you read, where you get somebody to read the chapters. I think that it'll have an easier time finding its audience. And in all fairness, maybe you're already thinking that. Maybe that's already on your mind.
Yeah, I basically totally agree with what you said, that I definitely feel like something to help get the series out there and to help promote it would be very beneficial. An audiobook sounds like a great idea. I want to offer an alternative or even supplemental, like something that could go along with that type of promotional campaign that I think could help you out, just in case, you're doing the audiobook and you're not quite seeing the returns you hoped for, and you're like, should I continue the audiobook? Here's what I would advise to help do that. Try to make appearances on other channels, or even try to grow your own channels. And that doesn't specifically mean YouTube. It could mean Blue Sky as well. It could mean Facebook, friends on Facebook, friends and family. What I mean to say is grow your platform and your social network of people who are willing to talk about you and have you. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm growing myself by being Tapir's friend and getting to appear on Tapir's show. And now, bam, here's one new person who knows about SIENNA and GENKI. So it's the same way with your series. Grow that social platform. And if people invite you to come on their podcast or their talk show, then definitely say yes. But if you don't see anyone quite yet, then start making connections in the server, because a bunch of us are content creators. You're in that server too, Amy. Start connecting with a bunch of content creators in that server. I know that some of them would definitely love to just chat with you and do a little podcast together or something. Even if it's not specifically about your series, ideally it would be a podcast where you could talk about your series, as that would be the best possible promotion. But even if it's a podcast that isn't specifically about you, there's still opportunities for you to put your own self in there and put your own work in there, like what I was able to do here with TAPIR and his podcast. So that would be my advice. Build your social network and try to get on shows and on channels and social networks.
Definitely. I think finding somebody, because if this is going to be like a giant 20-volume series, finding one person to voice it all will be very difficult. And because with big projects, my mind is like, okay, how do you make sure that this gets done? And I see that, she is in the mindset to get the writing part done. So next is just getting it out there. I think, okay, here's what I'm going to pitch. And again, I put the disclaimer that this podcast gives the worst advice imaginable. So it's up to you to follow it. But I think what you might be able to do for a giant thing like this is, if you have just a rotation of different people reading a chapter for a podcast audiobook version of this, so you can have different people jump in from Trixie's server who are available to read it, and then from the podcast version you can like blast it out. And much like any good adaptation, you can have the light novel be a few books ahead. If somebody's interested, they can pick up the book version and start reading, and then they'll be locked in from there. Because I'm thinking, like, where do people read? I'm like, I'm sorry for sounding illiterate, but like, because I'm thinking, like, where would I encounter something like this if it's not on a physical library or bookstore or bookshelf? Just scrolling around podcast audio dramas, I would be more likely to encounter, because I'm not seeking out original fiction. But maybe someone like me isn't your audience, and you do want people who are actively seeking out original fiction.
Blue Sky is a good home. That would be the first thing I would say. You obviously can't publish a full novel on Blue Sky, but you can write more words than you can write on Twitter. And you know what that means? Excerpts and links. So putting I think Twitter has 150 word limit, whereas Blue Sky is 200 to 250, I think. So you can write a decently sized prompt of your story with that word limit, or that character count. It's something. It's quite sizable though. And then you can put a link either at the top, right above the blurb. That would be my advice, or at the bottom. And then maybe even actually that would probably be enough. Just a link in the blurb would be plenty. Yeah. And so Blue Sky is a home for many authors. I just got in contact with one today on Blue Sky who followed me out of the blue, and I saw they had a book, and I was like, that's cool, you have a book. And we talked for a little bit. What they do is they do try to release their book on a website or something. If they're aiming to get it on Amazon someday, then they try to build up an audience and then go on Amazon Books and self-publish on Amazon. But yeah, Blue Sky is a great home, because you can say chapter 47 is now on my website. Click this link here. And then you got an audience. And then, of course, if you do the audiobook thing, then that's an added way to do it as well. If you ever try an audiobook, I'm trying out episode 1 of an audiobook series, might do it if there's interest, then you link it on that Blue Sky, and then people, dual platform promotion. Another piece of advice I wanted to give, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this concept, But in the world, you probably are, because Game of Thrones, aka Song of Ice and Fire, is a perfect example. Books, before they ever get adapted into a full show or a full TV series or a full anime or anything, they usually get promo videos. They're called promotional videos. Pretty much like every notable book gets this, even self-published ones, where like before Hoseki no Kuni, the manga Hoseki no Kuni became an anime, they had a promo video first. It was a short little like 5-minute animation, and it actually wasn't done by the studio that would go on to do the anime. The promo video was by Studio Hibari, and the full anime was by Studio Orange, who of course are known for Beastars and stuff. So promo videos for books have always been a thing throughout history. Even if we're talking about the realm of like Western books, like from the West, stuff like Warrior Cats. There's never been a Warrior Cats TV show or a Warrior Cats cartoon, but there are animated trailers for Warrior Cats to get the kids interested when there's a little like 1-minute cartoon with text on the screen, like an adventure with cats like you've never seen before, that kind of thing. So promo videos, definitely, if you're going to take anything away from this, along with the like build your social platforms, I would do a promo video that is going to get more eyes on it, especially if you do that video on YouTube and then you put a link to read it right in the description. A lot of people are going to go, cool ass trailer, I'll click that link.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that. I'm thinking more like how to get people interested in, like, yeah, if you can get people interested enough to start making fan art. Because, like, it's easier to promote something when there's a picture attached to it. You were saying, like, oh, you know, text blurb and then link. I'm thinking, like, yeah, I did that when I was writing my light novel back in the day. On Threads, I would put, like, whatever is the picture for the chapter and then exciting paragraph from, like, the first half of the chapter and hope that people click from there. And I did get a few readers who read all the way through and shared their thoughts, which was very cool. Like, but it's like, I can't. But that's the thing. I never. It's like, I'm gonna admit to what an ideas guy I am, because like that book was never finished, so I can't say like, oh, and I sold this many. So it's just more like, yeah, I got some. I was able to get some people's attention, to get some people to read it, which was nice. But you probably want a little more than that was nice if you're planning a giant 20 volume series.
There is a few more things I wanted to cover, because before we get too deep into this podcast, that wonderful cover that we heavily praised, that was actually done by the designer Carolyn Leager, who you can see at carolyn-leager.com/portfolio. I recognize that kind of website. That's a personal art portfolio website. They're probably a graphic designer like I am. But yeah, I found that out because of the plug your social section. So definitely we want to be sure to give a shout out to Carolyn Leager for that cover, because we praised it so heavily. Ooh, you found a good one here. She's done a lot of covers. Yeah, this was smart. Wow. She's actually, she has a contact section. So you must have commissioned her. That's cool.
Yeah, getting a good cover, that already shows that you are in a great place for this, because bad covers will ruin a book's chances. That is undeniable. And I'm just thinking, like, now what can we do to just that next push? Like, what's the next one?
Yeah, I have a few other ideas. My idea was regarding, so I gave you the advice of a promotional video. Every story ever does this. Even like fan fiction will often do this. There was a infamous, perhaps unfairly so, Legend of Zelda fanfic called My Inner Life, which was from like 2006 or something, like early internet kind of thing. And or maybe it was like 2008. It was pretty early though. And it actually had a YouTube trailer. And the YouTube trailer was just like images of Link, was like hearts on it, because it was a self-ship fanfic with Link from Zelda was the viewer. But it was a very famous and infamous fanfic because of just the bizarre style that was written in. Kind of became famous in a way similar to My Immortal, if you ever heard of that one.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I mean to say is, like, a huge amount of the attention that My Inner Life was getting was that trailer. And eventually, like, when YouTubers found out about like this fanfic existing, they started doing dramatic readings. So of course, dramatic readings can sometimes be difficult, because sometimes you get people who are real chuckle fucks and are doing it for the sake of making fun of it. But it also can be beneficial. So that would be what I would just generally say. Fan works in general, encouraging them is definitely a good thing to do. And then lastly, I'm sure that you would have done this anyways, but just something worth considering. Like, when you get commenters who reach out to you and like say ideas like, and this is between you and me, Amy, and like, I'm not saying this as a big public statement, but like, and you can leave this in the podcast. I'm fine with the public hearing. When you get people who reach out to you and they're like, oh, this story is so cool. I can imagine myself in this world. And like, can you do this with the story? And can you write this character in the story? The best thing to say to those kind of people to not discourage them is, I will keep your ideas in mind. Very creative ideas. I will keep them in mind as I continue writing. That does not mean that you have to take that commenter's stuff and include it. You're not obligated to do that. Fans are wonderful, but you're not obligated to change your story to appease them. But I would say keep up that positive fan interaction, even if you don't actually like the ideas you suggested. Even if the person in the comment was like, can you kill off the main girl? I just hate her. Still being polite and being like, very interesting idea. Thank you for your ideas is the best way to go, because any fan who's gonna write that kind of stuff is gonna be a fan who's gonna want to keep reading. So even if you don't think their ideas are good, then encouraging them will make them feel very like touched and happy, and they'll keep reading. I would say for sure. That's the difference between like a Thomas Artuk, the creator of Miraculous Ladybug, who is a jerk to his fans and who says, I create a new superhero every week. You'd have did you not know about Thomas Artuk being like a huge dick? It's super well known.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like super well known.
I had no idea about this. I've seen plenty of people that are just, this show jumped the shark. Like, that's its own genre of YouTube, is why this Miraculous Ladybug, they don't have it figured out.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. I find those videos so fascinating. I remember one time on the first, the second podcast that you and me ever did together, I was like curious why all of these like video essays about Miraculous being bad were like a thing. Because like it's a Nickelodeon kids show. Like I talked with some students. I was a teacher, and some of my students at school, like who were 8, were like having hot takes about Miraculous. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then you see all of these like grown adults who are like Instagram models and stuff, who are like doing their Miraculous is problematic video essay. I'm like, really? Is this what we're doing our time with? And I'm not dissing it because I love animation. But yeah, so I definitely know what you mean, that like a lot of Miraculous discussion is just like endless drama, like videos, just perpetuating it. It's a similar situation with Ruby as well.
I'm like, man, it's like, I don't want to knock anyone for making a Ladybug hot take video, because I've done plenty of hot takes on children's media. But but I'm just like, man, of all of the slop content I watched about Miraculous Ladybug, I had no idea that the creator was a bit of a jerk. That's crazy, man. Like, you would think of like this endless ocean would have rolled up at one point.
It makes me feel like they don't actually think about, like the creators behind these shows they watch. Like, to a lot of those video essays that were like Miraculous is bad and like here's all the reasons, they don't think about like the Italian guy who like wrote that episode, or the Italian guy who like storyboarded or did character design. That does not matter to them. They don't think of creators behind shows. They think of it like, I tuned in to Adrian and what's the girl? Marionette this week, and they had a fight and it was not good and I don't like it. Like, to them, that's the whole world. It's amazing.
I know, right? Now, okay. Now, you brought up, this Zelda fanfic became like My Immortal. Okay. Amy, here's my pitch. I don't know if you're making a Portuguese version of your novel, but I know a minimal amount of Portuguese. I can read the worst. I can do the worst Portuguese reading for chapter 1, and everyone will be like, "What the fuck is this gringo doing?" And it will enrage people, and you will get. And my terrible reading will rage bait people. If you want me to do that, I'm game. If you want anyone to read it well, I can't help you there, but I can help with a rage bait campaign.
I feel like we've given so much good advice to Amy. I hope that you get as much out of this, Amy, as we are, because I'm having a lovely time. And I know that it was not much focused on the story itself, but I think that's because like you already are writing it, and we already know that you can write it because we see the excerpts that you post. So that's why we focused on helping you market. But I hope you value this as much as we had fun with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I say, like, we pretend like this is for an unmade thing. I mean, I'm gonna break kayfabe a little bit. Like, if I'm seeing you updated every day on the Discord, I don't mean to disrespect you, but yeah, like Lucario said, it's like it's already in motion. This is our hot takes on marketing it. I'm sorry if I say this a little too often, but I'm just not big on fantasy. So I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a fantasy story. There's nothing about this that stands out as wrong or bad or I don't get it. It's just like, yep, it sounds like a story, beginning, middle. Like I don't want to be dismissive, but there's only so much you can do with a description. Your description checks out.
Originally, I was going to wrap this up by giving credit to their socials, and I still do want to do that. So I'm going to do that first, but then I'm just going to say one more little piece that I wanted to say before we move on. So the socials are optional. Share your socials, anything you want to plug. I plan on starting to publish this weekly by June or July of 2025. That's very soon. Follow me on Blue Sky to know when it's about to come out. So they do have a Blue Sky. I already knew that about you, Amy, that you had a Blue Sky. I think my casual advice, if you want to experiment with this, maybe try making a second Blue Sky page for the book once it comes out. Now, am I saying don't post about the book on your main page? No, not at all. You should do that too. You should post it on your main page too. So I'm not saying that you should make a new Blue Sky and then never talk about the series on your main page. No, on amywarrel.bluesky, you absolutely should post about the book. But I would also consider making its own Blue Sky page for it and posting on that too. So yes, double dip. And what is the benefit of that? Well, the benefit of that is if you make a bunch of new friends on your page that is named after the book, then that's a bunch of people who are seeing that Blue Sky page and going, oh, that's the name of a book. I'll read that book. So it's like they're not just befriending Amy, who happens to be the author. We're befriending the Blue Sky page of this book series. That can be very big. And it allows people to follow you if they only want to know about the book. So if you're posting about the book on Amy Warrel Blue Sky, then all of your lovely friends who love Amy as a person are going to find out about the book. But if you have fans who only want to know about the book, then they're not going to potentially follow that unless they like really, really know the ins and outs. But if you have a page for the book, people who are into the book are going to follow that. So that's just the thing I wanted to say there.
Oh yeah, that sounds like great advice. Yeah, thanks so much for stopping by, Amy. I'm really happy that you submitted your pitch to us.
Yeah, that's everything I wanted to say. So great job on that. And now I suppose we're ready to jump into the next one. Do you want to read that one?
Yeah. So from Jester, spelled with a 3 and a Z. Very, very cool. No pronouns, but their fictional husbando is Real Thessaly from Genshin. Sorry, I've never said that out loud. I just know he's the one with the fat ass. So very good taste there.
I don't know much about Genshin.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of memes about him. Wow, that guy's got a huge ass. That's his personality. Oh, and he drinks tea, I think. This is me like trying to like all the Genshin memes that I've received through Nerd Osmosis, trying to remember them.
There's one mascot from that game who was voiced by the same voice as Kuromi from Onagai My Melody, and also Naruto from Naruto. It's that VA. And she voices a little mascot. It's a little 8-bit dragon. That's my favorite Genshin character. I've never played the game, but that's my favorite Genshin character. He's perfect. Nice.
Base taste.
Thank you.
So the elevator pitch is Pretty Cure meets Centricide by Dreg. This is very cool. Now, summarize your potential series in one paragraph. This is slightly longer than a paragraph, so we will have to make fun of you.
Yeah.
Oh, no. And title, Magical Girl 420 with clover emoji and German flag emoji.
I imagine that's
Medium,
intended
visual...
to be weed, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, medium visual novel, approximately 7 to 9 hour read, or anime, short 6 to 8 episodes. And hi, I'm Thu Truong. I'm a normal girl with a normal life, but I have a secret. I was given the power of naturopathy to transform into the legendary healer, Magical Girl 420. Hey, did you know that her name is a reference to him? With a German flag emoji. Oh no. Oh my god. I knew I got bad vibes from her. She needs to be canceled. Wait, what? What happened when an innocuous, silly, magical girl is falsely attributed to the birth of a certain dictator? As she begins to lose support from public image, she also gains the recruiters from different aisles of the political compass. All of them unwanted. Can she save her image on her own, or will she have to begrudgingly team up with one side to defeat the other? In a satirical comedy, follow Thu Truong as Magical Girl 420 as she fights to clear her name of accusations from all sides of the political extremism. a short series comedy satire on what-if scenarios if a classic innocent magical girl was thrust into the debate sphere of the political compass and everyone is out for her. Each episode will be taking on each end of the political compass. All of this will be played for laughs, but by the last 2 episodes would turn more dramatic, as the stakes are at its highest at the weight of everything happening to her finally hits. The final episode would probably be some girl power / feminist message about this situation happened because only men can level this type of animosity towards young girls. But again, keep it cute, keep it classy, keep it satirical. Is the enemy of my enemy really my friend? Said in quotes. I trust you not to cancel me for this pitch. Crying emoji. Also, Lucario, make your Y boys and Pretty Cure our hated deep dives, or else I'll do it. LOL, JK. I am the problematic friend amongst the. I hang out with the alphabet squad, but I am the most problematic one. I will not cancel you for this pitch. But if you're already scared that you're going to get canceled, you might need to retool some things.
I would be inclined to agree.
But let's open. Yeah, let's open up their one image for this.
And then I have a few thoughts to say on the summary as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll send over their drawing that they did. Looks very cool. This is a very pleasant retro art style.
Yeah, that's absolutely gorgeous. And it gives me Sailor Moon vibes, which is good because Sailor Moon is the same studio as Precure. They're both by Studio Toei. In fact, some have argued that sort of Precure's existence owes a bit to Sailor Moon in the sense that Toei adapted this famous magical girl manga, Sailor Moon, and then they said to themselves, well, what if we had our own magical girl team that was similar to what Sailor Moon does? And so we got Precure by the same studio. But that does lead me into one of the first things I was going to say about this summary, which was that I was struggling a little bit to see which parts of this exactly were Precure related rather than like just magical girl related in general. Because I do feel that there's some people who sometimes will think of something as like a trope of Precure, but really it applies to all magical girls. So that was one thing that made me think about that a little bit, like what will make this Precure-esque? Is it going to be the fact that they specifically punch and kick a lot? Because that is what Precure is known for, is the punching and kicking rather than magical attacks. Like you look at Cardcaptor Sakura, and Sakura is not beating down the monsters with her fist and her leg and kicking them. She's actually using magical spells. But then you look at Precure, and Precure stands out because those girls are all punching and kicking to heck and back. So that's just one of the first things I thought of. But wonderful, wonderful art, and definitely it captures the magical girl vibe, the kind of Toei lineage of magical girls that I was talking about. So I just wanted to cover that. Is there anything else you want to say about the art? Or
yeah, the art looks great. I think this is a story that you can definitely tell within, a 7-hour visual novel or a short anime. I think you gotta ask someone who has like a little more, okay, because I understand if it's like I need to associate my protagonist with the worst thing because that means she will overcome it. So I understand that angle, but that is going to be, I think you could tell the same story without that association. So I think this is something that you could potentially, like you could use another historical figure with, because I get Magical Girl 420 and the hee funny joke that you're going for. I would say like, you don't need to have that in your work for this idea to be explored, because this concept of a magical girl who's going across all different political ideologies, that's very interesting, and I really like that. I think that you could do something a lot more fun for her to overcome rather than just, oh no, just by the luck of the draw she has this bad association. I think that if the association that she has to overcome, if she did something like, if she like kicked a puppy, but it wasn't what it seemed, and now everybody hates her, I think that you could tell a similar story without, potentially getting this demonetized on every platform. How about you, Komugi?
Yeah, I absolutely. First of all, major props and thanks to you that I heard you almost say Lucario for a second, but then you went to Komugi. Thank you so much for your understanding for that. I wanted to say, if you ever accidentally say Lucario fan, I won't ever be offended. It's not a dead name thing. It's kind of like I'm fluid. I'm using Komugi sometimes, but I'm known as Lucario fan. So thank you for trying so hard on that.
Of course.
And a couple things I just wanted to talk about with this summary. First of all, I can tell that you are, to an extent, familiar with Precure because you are a fan of my channel. Thank you so much for that. And you know about the fact that a long time ago, I made a video, which was one of my most famous, called Why Are Males Controversial in Precure? And then I promised to do a video series going over a couple of particularly infamous male characters in the Precure franchise. I did end up making one of those videos. I made one on Coco from Yes Precure 5, who was perhaps the most hated male character in Precure. But I have not made more yet because that was such a draining video to make, to have to talk about like fandom drama and stuff. And also the backlash and amount of people who thought I was a bad person for even discussing it. Like even just talking about it, even if I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, like that made me bad, you know? Like they just didn't even want, it was like Voldemort. Like I couldn't even say the character's name. So yeah, the backlash and stuff like that was kind of what led me from making it. And so what I mean to say is that clearly you know quite a bit about Precure. You probably even know a bit about the fandom's interactions with things. So my advice, honestly, would be maybe make a character who is an infamous fictional character. Precure has plenty of choices for you to choose from. Coco is the most infamous male character in Precure and one of the most infamous characters, perhaps. But in my opinion, he's not the one who could be considered the most infamous, because there are other, like, that should be, because there are other ones that are, like, actually really, like, problematic and have done bad things and, like, are like, problematic characters that people talk about. Namely, Blue from Happiness Charge Precure. And just to clarify, I'm giving you all this advice and context right now because I'm working from the perspective that you really do want to make something that incorporates the feeling of Precure into it. And I'm assuming that that's true. And I believe that that's true because you're a fan of me and your art is very genuine shoujo-y magical girl art. So if I'm giving advice that feels unrelated to you, that's the only reason I'm giving it, is because it feels like you want that Precure element in there. That's why I'm doing this. So we're going into, for a second, Blue from Happiness Charge Precure. He's like basically God in that show. So like in that show, God is like a guy you can just talk to. Like you could just walk over to God and be like, hey, what's up, God, aka Blue? And basically he's very odd because he gives the main character his magical girl powers, but it's revealed that the whole reason that this whole battle was happening and they're fighting against this evil magical girl called Mirage is because Mirage fell in love with Blue, and Blue kind of led her on a little bit and then regretted that he did that because he's God and she was a little magical girl and that was not going to work out. And so he basically ghosted her. And so that's why Mirage is the villain. So as you can tell, Blue is a very controversial character for everything he does in the story, and the fact that he basically is a controversial character in the show. There are other characters who like call him out and get mad at him in the show itself. So what I mean to say is that if you want to do a story about a character who is like the reincarnation or is spiritually tied or is based off of an infamous character, maybe base it off of an infamous character from media. If you base it off a character from Precure that's infamous, for example, then bam, you have your connection to Precure right there that lets me know that, oh, this is definitely Precure related. And if you want to make this an original IP that you can own the rights to, then you can very easily invoke the feelings of an infamous male character without using copyrighted images. I know that because Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, the famous anime, which is a famous parody anime, had a bunch of scenes that were parodying the Precure season that was airing at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, Shinbo, who would go on to direct Madoka Magica, he was a fan of Precure, so when he directed Zetsubo Sensei, he also parodied. And in fact, there actually is a character in Madoka Magica as well that Shinbo named after a Precure character. So lots of Precure homages and references in all of Shinbo's career and all of his many anime. So that's a way you can reference anime culture without infringing copyright. So I would say that, if you're looking for cool ideas, use an infamous fictional character, because then there's a little bit less pain and a little bit less people who are going to be turned away from the series. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, you mentioned this idea in your pitch about a silly magical girl, an innocent magical girl, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to use the exact word so it doesn't seem like I'm misquoting you. A what-if scenario if a classic innocent magical girl was thrusted into blah-de-blah-de-blah. I wanted to mention
the debates
for you when you made the series. I know that what they did kind of was like, they're trying to do the contrast of, oh, the magical girl's innocent, but the historical content is not innocent. I would perhaps challenge you, though, to say, if we're tying things into Precure here, are we specifically saying that in a way that would be related to Precure? Because Precure characters are not innocent. They actually, most of them have a body count. Most Precure seasons involve murdering the villains. This was also a thing in Sailor Moon. They straight up killed the villains. In Sailor Moon, they at least justified it under the explanation that, like, the first woman who they kill, I think she was Beryl. Beryl was the villain of Sailor Moon Season 1, she is described as a mass of dark energy. So Beryl was not a human woman. So when Sailor Moon killed her, it was a little bit, or when all the girls teamed up to defeat Beryl, it was not so much a killing of a human, it was a killing of a representation of darkness. But in Precure, that is not the case. In Precure, they do murder humans. Mainly some of my favorite seasons, the original Futariwa Precure, and also Yes Precure 5, they have a kill count of multiple humans. One of them, Yes Precure 5, they're fighting the Nightmare Corporation, and so they're fighting a bunch of cynical, annoyed businessmen and women. And so the Yes 5 are very defensive and wanting to prevent their school from being attacked by this corporation. And in that fight, several of the baddies are killed by them. It's mainly a situation where they were human, but they eventually take on a evil form that lets them become monster-like, and so the Precure kill them when they are monsters. So you're not going to see any of the Yes 5 stabbing a human person through the heart, but that monster that they defeat was a human, and they killed it knowing that it was a human. So what I mean to say is that are Precure specifically really that innocent? I would beg to differ. I mean, they're kind of defined by what the series is as a more battle-focused, more tokusatsu, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider-esque version of magical girls. And again, are Kamen Rider characters really that innocent? No. Many of them are very edgy. Many of the Kamen Riders are very cool with killing humans if they need to. So yeah, we're talking about characters that maybe are not that innocent. So if we want to say the idea of innocent magical girl, maybe other series might be worth looking into, because there are shows with very innocent heroines like Cardcaptor. The Cardcaptor Sakura, she would not kill a person ever willingly. There is a couple times where she hurt a person, but that was not willing. Cardcaptor is truly a innocent magical girl. So that's just what I wanted to say there.
You got the magical girl PhD. I'm so happy you were on for this episode.
Very cool pitch. Thank you for all the effort you put into it. And just very cool art as well. So we hope the best for this. It's awesome. And if it was just for a little goof and a gaff and a laugh, then that's okay too. We're approaching it from the sake of this is something that you're taking really seriously as a serious IP that you want to put on your portfolio. But if this was just a goofy project that you want to make a fanime about on YouTube, one of those fanime Nyan Sugar Girls, if that's the goal here, then have fun. Don't even let us discourage you if it's just going to be a fun little thing. We just are giving you advice in the context of making this super professional and on your portfolio kind of work.
This concept would be perfect for a Nyan Sugar Girls style fanime.
Exactly.
Actually.
That would be, that would totally.
Yeah, I could see it now. Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, that's really the biggest thing I will push is try to brainstorm other things that the protagonist can be wrongfully associated with. Ask around, ask other people's opinions. I said kicking a puppy off the top of my head. Definitely ask for other takes on that.
Oh, and give her a mascot. If we're talking about Precure here, every Precure ever has a mascot. She needs one. It's just that's the Precure requirement.
Yes. How problematic can the mascot be?
I was actually going to suggest perhaps the exact opposite. Are you familiar with an anime by the name of Nurse Witch Komugi?
No, I'm not.
It is a somewhat famous, it did get English dubbed, magical girl parody anime from the 2000s. So basically, we talked about Akiyuki Shinbo earlier. Akiyuki Shinbo made this one weird-ass crazy show that kind of was the epitome of his crazy style, which is known as the name The Soul Taker. And Trixie has talked about Soul Taker in her videos before as well. So he made The Soul Taker, and there was a character who was the main character's sister, and she was named Komugi. And she was just a weird, mysterious girl who just had magic powers for no explained reason. So then it was explained, I think. So then we did a spin-off about Komugi as a magical girl in Nurse Witch Komugi. But the funny thing about it is she's a character from a very serious, weird, fucked up Akiyuki Shinbo show that was a dark transforming hero thing. So it's Komugi herself is a very GENKI sweet protagonist. But at the same time, the world and the setting is very fucked, which is what makes it funny. So what I mean to say is it is possible to do that contrast. So if the idea perhaps is that, the main magical girl has this dark inspiration behind what she transforms into, and she's tied into this person from history, it would be possible to have the mascot be totally innocent for the sake of that contrast. If the girl's not the one that's totally innocent, then maybe the mascot should be. That kind of thing has been done before. And that's kind of makes it funny. That's what makes it funny is that contrast. Because if everyone's dark, then no one is, as they say in Incredibles.
Yeah. Plus, it can get overwhelming if it's wow, this world is so messed up and everything's just super freaking edgy. It's like, if it's like, okay, magical girl protagonist is very innocent and cheerful. If she has her very cute mascot friend to bounce off of while she's navigating a very dark world, I think that'll make it easier for the audience, so she's not just like constantly getting pummeled. Plug their socials.
Oh,
before
yes,
we
please.
move on.
Let's do that.
So Jester is on YouTube under Jester618, Jester spelled with 3 and a Z, Jester.art on Instagram, also 3 and a Z, and on Twitter/X, Jester's Arts, 3 and a Z. And I will link all of those in the description if you want to see where this goes. And hopefully you'll comment and let us know let us know how it's going.
Oh, they're a real one. This is a really cool YouTube. I was just looking at it right now. They're a real one because they literally have talked about Wedding Peach. That's a super forgotten magical girl from the 90s.
Yeah.
So they know their stuff.
Always good to see obscure magical girl discussions.
Absolutely. And now that we plugged that, we're going to talk about the next one, which was optional. Your name, pen name, pronouns, which fictional character you most want to marry. We have Pairsheep. That's a working name, LOL, and they have no one they want to marry. Understandable.
No pronouns, no wedding plans. They
no
are
wedding
just
peach.
the Pairsheep.
What is your elevator pitch given in the form of series meets series? I mean, we have Sekirei meets Tokyo Raven. I have heard of both of those series, but I've never experienced them before. So that sounds pretty cool. And now moving into summarize your potential series in one paragraph. This is where to include the series medium, if it's not a manga, the intended length, and all your big plans. I mean, if you have a title, this is also where to include it. Oswald and Sahasra is an advantage manga. An advantage manga. Advantage.
Yeah, never heard of that.
Maybe like about taking advantages, like Death Note. Like I have advantages over like people, Maybe. It starts with Oswald, the youngest of the most powerful wizard family in Clock Square City. Again, a working title. It sounds pretty cool to me. I like Clock Square City. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that thing from Kingdom Hearts. What was that called? Clocktown? I think it was Clocktown.
That sounds right.
I'm just going to look that up just to check. Traverse Town. There was a clock tower in Traverse Town. But anyway.
There we go.
The Ashwood family. Unlike his family, Oswald's magical abilities are lacking. To prove to his family wrong, he summoned Faust, a beast that could bring forth the end of the world. For what? To make him Oswald's familiar, of course. But what he got was a woman from our world? Interesting. So what I think this is suggesting is that he summoned a famous, very feared beast of the demon world who could have fucked up Earth. But when he tried to summon this to make it his familiar, this beast, he ended up getting a human woman. So perhaps potentially the beast transformed into a human woman would be my guess. That's what I understood from that. That kind of reminds me of Shamanic Princess, an old 90s magical girl series, which they tried to summon like familiars, but they were actually just kidnapping people from Earth and trapping them as their slaves forever. Shamanic Princess was fucked up. That was a very interesting classic by the same director as Outlaw Star. But anyway, here is the picture, the cover that we're working with, or at least an image.
Yeah, it says that the girl has a demon inside.
Okay, I see.
So there's the character descriptions. We have Oswald Ashwood, a magician, very small man, very mean, aiming to be the next head of his family. And Sahasra Dawn, a normal girl with a demon inside her. She's new to this magical world. She loves to carry Oswald like a cat. Yeah, we got some cute art for them.
Interesting pitch. So what we're working with here then is kind of more of a Death Note situation where the demon is a separate character still who doesn't really have any power and so has to work through a human vessel. Because that's what we were dealing with Death Note, where, obviously Ryuk and Light, but then also Misa and the really cool female death god whose name I forget. She was cool, though. She's the best character.
Yeah.
So, we're working with more of a Death Note situation where it's not actually the demon is a main character, but instead the demon is kind of trapped having to work with this human vessel. Well, my first question would be in that case is how much control does the demon have? Does the demon simply give her powers so she's kind of just a superpowered human? Or is the demon actually able to still take control of the body from time to time, such as is seen in many popular shonen manga, such as Devilman and Jujutsu Kaisen, etc., etc. Devilman was the one that invented that whole trope, was Devilman
Yeah.
being a fusion of a human and a boy. But then a bunch of stuff took inspiration from it, like Dan to Dan as well, and Jujutsu Kaisen notably, and Chainsaw Man. So I would say that regardless of which direction you go, this feels very shonen-esque, which is fine. That just means that that's your potential inspirations to look to would definitely be the shonen inspirations. Because if we're talking about a demon kind of manipulating a human, then we're talking about Death Note. If we're talking about a demon that gives a person superpowers, but the demon has no free will and is basically trapped, then we're talking about kind of more of just like a superpower anime. Like it's basically just an excuse for the girl to have superpowers, is the fact that she's got this demon in her, but it doesn't really affect things. And then if we're talking about the demon can come out every once in a while, then we're talking about kind of the Devilman genre. All of which are potentially interesting and all of which are shonen. If we went in the shoujo direction, we actually would start to see something more along the lines, the demon would be its own character. Potentially the demon became a human and was having a bond with this main character. That's more of the shoujo direction to take things. So it sounds like this is potentially a shonen type work, especially with the dating element as well. You have this superpowered girl that's mating the main guy. That reminds me of, I just watched some fan service, like harem anime, and obviously this is not like me saying this is the best piece of media ever created. It's just me saying that this was something I checked out the other day, which was the same way. Was it High School DxD or Makenki? I don't even remember. I just tried it out. I think it was Makenki. Makenki's like a fan servicey shonen series, but they had like demons that were giving them powers. But the idea was not so much that the girls were like demons; they weren't monster girls. It was more like the girls just happened to have like demonic power. And then there's also Ushio and Tora, which was a very famous manga that Madhouse adapted, and it ran for a long time. They adapted it in the 90s, and they adapted it again in the 2010s because Ushio and Tora was just that popular. It got the FMA Brotherhood treatment. Nice. And so Ushio and Tora was the same way, where it was a boy who had a demon who was like kind of coming off of him and was like, the demon had a bit of control, but it was kind of like the boy's story. Basically we have a lot of potential roads you can go down here. I would say clarifying up for me, so I don't have to ask these questions, helping me understand what we're working with here. Are we working with a demon that has free will? Are we working with a demon that has partial free will and is somewhat trapped? Or are we working with a girl that just has superpowers that she was kind of given, but she's mostly just her own person? I would want to know about that. Especially, again, if the demon does have free will, I would want to know about their character. I would almost kind of want a third character sheet right here that even if you don't show what they look like, just a third character sheet with text that says demon, trait number 1, trait number 2, trait number... I want to know about that. That's really interesting. But I would need to know a little bit more about what this is specifically in order to know. And that's my critique. That's my feedback.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, I think there is nothing about this that needs to have it take place in another world. Yeah. In that, like, it's because it seems like it's mostly about their relationship, and it looks like the fantasy setting is just kind of a backdrop, and he uses the magic to summon her, and there's the kind of isekai element with the girl from our world going into the fantasy world. I would think, now here's how I would tweak this so it would be a little stronger. I would say have this set in our world, and he is just a guy that can do magic. And let's say that he wants to summon a familiar, and it goes into the girl that he's crushing on, and now he has to deal with this, that he potentially cursed her. And it would be interesting if that led to the two characters dating. Now, I would say that I don't want to be too rude. There is nothing about the pitch or the art where I'm looking at this like, damn, that looks fucking cool. Or thinking like, wow, I know who the audience for this would be. Like when I looked up Sekirei, like I look at that art style, like it just grabs you. And it is an art style where people wouldn't care what the plot is. The girls are hot enough, they'll read it. Don't think your art is quite there yet where people are just going to come and show up for the attractive characters. So I think you need to put more of a spin on the story if you're going to make this as a manga. And I think the setup for this of like, okay, guy and girl are dating, and and they're very opposite, and the girl has a demon inside her. That's a pretty cool premise. I think that by setting it in another world, it does add another layer of complexity that doesn't necessarily need to be there. So set it in our world, get rid of the fantasy world, maybe have the demon come from the fantasy world and and make the demon a stronger presence? Would it be possession, or would it be, the Shinigami hanging out? I think that would be pretty cool. It would also add some pretty interesting roadblocks for the two if they're dating.
Yeah.
I do also, I also have to appreciate that, you're just going to have them dating. That's something I really like in romance manga. I don't like when romance manga teases it for, how, for forever and ever. And you're reading just to see, like, are they going to start dating? Luckily, the romance genre of, like, in anime, it's kind of moving past that. And now it's like, okay, we're going to have them start dating within the first 5 episodes. I really like that you're taking that approach, and that is something that makes it feel very modern and inviting, and something that I would want to check out. The twist with the demon has the potential to make this very interesting. I don't want to say if it's done right. I think, but if the demon is just kind of dormant, then it just becomes like a cute love story, in which case the summoning doesn't need to happen. And then the focus would be more like, well, how does a cute love story in your fantasy world unfold? And I don't think that's necessarily the angle that this is going for. And it does seem to be more cute slice of life.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential you can explore there. I feel like making a decision on how much sentience the demon has, and if they're going to be an actual character or if they're just literally a power source, basically like a magical battery, that is going to be the make or break in changing what kind of tone we have in this series. Because if it is just like a cute slice of life romance in the fantasy world, then I mean, there is potential there, but then you're looking at a direction that is more like a romantic comedy manga. Like, you would, if anything, want to take inspiration from like the famous rom-com stuff. But then if you have a roadblock in the relationship, that can still be a really cool romance. And if you still want to do a romance story, but with this roadblock, then look to some series where there is a romance that the main characters like one of them wants it or something, but there's like supernatural stuff that gets in the way. Lots of ones come into mind for this. Rumiko Takahashi is the queen of this. Both Ranma One Half and Urusei Yatsura are both stories where one or multiple of the characters have feelings for another, but like supernatural stuff such as gender swapping, animal transformations, any kind of number of things, the main character being a bit of a dick. All of these things get in the way of making the romance be able to happen. And to clarify, I don't think that Ranma is a dick. I was talking about Ataru. And basically, there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do in that regard if you want to have magic get in the way of the potential romance. And what's cool about that is that you can still have the characters genuinely love each other or genuinely be dating. It'll just be like there's obstacles that get in their way. So like maybe they do consider themselves dating, but every once in a while the demon like takes control while like they're trying to have a date night. And so it's like, oh, I really wanted to have a really nice date night with Sahara, but now this guy's trying to take over this restaurant and I have to deal with it. That would be cool. So try to figure out what you want to do. And that's my only advice. Great submission, and thank you. This one has a lot of potential. I'd say also with Oswald says aiming to be the next head of his family. How does him dating the girl with the demon inside, how will that conflict with that? Because I'm thinking of my imaginary rewrite of your series. I apologize, but I'm thinking like, if in order to be head of the family, he has to keep magic a secret, like, would that be a conflict? I also try to think of how his goals would conflict with his relationship, or maybe they don't. Maybe she is just very cool and this helps his goals, and it is just this really nice, fluffy romance. Either way, I'm really looking forward to how you develop this and which direction this goes. I think this has a lot of potential. Same here. I very much like this.
Yeah.
So thank you. That was another very positive one, but it helps that we're getting fantastic submissions. Everyone here should feel very proud, and you all put a lot of effort in, especially with the original artwork and original covers. Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, let's plug their socials. They are at Lazy Honeycomb. Yes, the PFB with the small handheld doggo. And I looked around. That is their Twitter handle. If you want to follow them there.
Awesome. Thank you. Lazy Honeycomb, all one word. We'll look into that.
And we have our 3 nominations. Because in this podcast, we don't greenlight anything, but we can nominate things. So our 3 nominations, we have the multimedia masterpiece, the most likely to be picked up for a multimedia franchise, our favorite find, the idea we like the most, and the poacher's pick, the idea most likely to get fan art or outright stolen from an audience member. I'm going to say poacher's pick. I'm going to say what immediately came to mind was Jester's Pretty Cure meets Centricide. That one feels rife for memes and fan interpretations. And if you can get like a fandom where where it's different magical girl reimaginings of people on the political compass, that feels that would be awesome. Sorry, I'm going out of order, but that one immediately stood out. How about you?
I agree with your pick. So we're giving multimedia masterpiece out first.
Oh, I had said Poacher's pick idea most likely to get fan art. I am nominating Jester's Pretty Cure meets Centricide.
Oh, I see. Yes, I would agree in that case, because Magical Girl series, one of the main things that make them very appealing to the fans is the designs. Each season, you go, oh my gosh, the theme is food this season, and so they have food themed designs. And oh my gosh, I'm referring to Kira Precure a la mode. They're like, oh, the design's like, this one's gelato, and it's Cure gelato, and it looks like gelato. So people get so excited about the designs of the characters, and then they immediately want to do fan art of it, because they think of themselves like, oh, what if we did a famous character from a kid's show like Milo Pony or something, but as a food-themed Precure. Oh, Pinkie Pie, well, she'd be the cake Precure. She's cake, that kind of thing. So basically, I can totally see people being very much into the design, because Magical Girls are designs are a big part of them. It's kind of like a fashion showcase in many ways, which is why it's even cooler to see them kicking ass in Precure, because it's like they've got a cool outfit and they're beating stuff up. And so I would agree that Poacher's pick is definitely would be the Magical Girl 420.
Yeah, we started at the last one. Let's go to the second one. The favorite find, the idea we like the most. I'm gonna say Pairsheep's Sekirei meets Tokyo Ravens for mine. That seems like the kind of manga that I would read and enjoy, and it's the one that I am most likely to go back and read when it is completed.
I'm going to pick Amy. My second choice, if we're doing like multiple picks, my second choice would be the Pretty Cure X Centricide, aka Magical Girl 420. That would be my second pick, but I'm going to give number one pick to Amy. Amy, I've seen you creating the story in real time, and I feel like so impressed by your consistency and your dedication to this topic. I have no doubt in my mind that like this story is like, it's something that you feel like you want to dedicate a portion of your life to doing. Because I mean, think about it. You basically are. You're spending like a year now posting these regular updates like, oh, I wrote 1,000 words tonight. And we're all like, whoa, you wrote that. And it's like, you clearly are wanting to write this enough to make a portion of your life be dedicated to it. That to me shows great dedication. And, I'm so thankful that you put something as personal as that on this show. That is the reason why I, above all else, was so positive here today, because I saw everyone's ideas clearly coming from a place of passion and not a sake of trolling. And that's also why I give my second place to Magical Girl 420, who, despite the eyebrow-raising pitch, clearly put in the effort to make designs that felt real and felt legit, and like actually put effort into all parts of it. So that's my first and second pick for that.
Those are good choices. Yeah, I have a lot of love and respect for Amy. Again, I'm really sorry. I'm just not into fantasy, so I gotta be honest. I can't have that one as my favorite. But hey, I'm wishing you all the best. I really hope this goes well. Then we have multimedia masterpiece, most likely to be picked up for a multimedia franchise. I would say Amy's pitch, definitely. That one is, that one just feels very suited for a big multimedia franchise, just because the idea itself is huge.
Amy would be my second pick for most likely to be a multimedia franchise, but my number one pick would actually honestly be the one that you said. I'm sorry, I want to get the Sekirei meets Tokyo Ravens. So Oswald and Sahasra is one that I think, because it gives me light novel vibes. In fact, even just now, as I was thinking over the pitch, I realized it's actually very similar to Familiar of Zero, which was a girl in a magic world who summoned a normal human boy from Earth. And they had a bit of a romance, but the boy also was a bit eccentric, and I believe he was like given a weird power as her familiar, because he had to be her familiar, hence the Familiar of Zero, because the girl's named Zero. But I think he was given some kind of like weird power. It's been years since I checked out Familiar of Zero. I don't remember the context, but he definitely he had familiar powers because he was genuinely her familiar. So this reminded me a lot of your pitch, and Familiar of Zero was very famous and had light novel, video game, anime, manga. It got everything. It got the multimedia works. And so I think that that one definitely has the potential to be a multimedia success. And then my second
Oh,
pick
yeah.
for multimedia success masterpiece would definitely be the Amy's novel. Because I definitely feel in second place, Amy's novel would be able to get multimedia. Because, you know, it could get a live action movie or it could get an animated work. The only thing that made me like hesitant to say that Amy's was #1 adaptation is because we all know that how bad adaptations of books often end up being. They all tragically,
true.
they deserve better, but many books end up getting very rough adaptations. So I wanted to say that, yeah, if Amy wants her work to stay in book form because that's often the best version, then I understand completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable.
Could be a cool video game, though. A video game based on it? Oh, that'd be really cool.
That'd be awesome. I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
And so if any of these ideas sound cool, if you have any fan art or outright thievery, you can @ me on Substack, Blue Sky X DeviantArt under the name Taperclip, and we will share it next time. We will be reading the comments next time. If you have any thoughts or if we tragically misunderstood your pitch, please clarify in the comment section and we'll address it next time. Thanks so much for recording this. This is a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.